see you all here in this amazing place. We've got 15 minutes. We're going to break it into 3 5-minute chunks, and we're going to start with where are we at just right now? So let's just do a little recap. And so Marion,
yeah.
Give us a sense of where we are right now with open banking, what's happening, what's still annoying you a bit, and then we'll move on. We'll finish on a high, don't you worry.
Absolutely. So this is on, yeah. So where are we now? It's just over 8 years actually since open banking or OBIE was formed, and we've just launched a seminal report. It's an OBL report, and the economic analysis has been done by EY, because what we wanted to do is to take real data, real insights, experience over those 8 years, overlay it with economic analysis to project forward. I wanted to really identify what difference is this making. There's the practical differences to your life, your activities, business activities, and there's also the economic benefit as well as those societal benefits. Because open banking, open finance is all about both commercial benefit, societal benefit. They sit hand in glove, which is really interesting and very powerful indeed. And what this showed is that currently there's and these are numbers of analysis, 2 billion value per annum currently from open banking, and we haven't even moved on to open finance. Project that across the 5 years, and it was something in the region of 4.6, 4.7 billion pounds annually. Broaden that out beyond for the full remit of open banking and open finance, and it's 46 billion in 5 years. And that's without considering what we're going to talk about, which is the broader smart data environment. So this is economic analysis based on real insights, real data. It's the first time it's been done. We're the first country to do that. So I think it gives us a level of confidence to move forward. And that's where we are. And now we're at a stage, and we talk about pivotal years and years of change, where the FCA is working on a long-term regulatory framework with His Majesty's Treasury, and we'll be moving forward and expanding. So the future is really exciting.
Yeah, and just to ground that a little bit, I mean, the audience here, if you think about, we forget the impact, I think, that open banking's had on everyone. I mean, I was thinking about it the other day, and it's, it's not that long ago when you would go online, to your banking app or to your onto your online account, and you would just be able to see your banking statement for the last quarter or the last month if you were lucky. And you just think about the actual real-time ability of what we do now with money. And I think, that is all credit to open banking. Without open banking, we wouldn't really have the drive that we've seen from the innovation, from the new banks, from the people that have pushed the boundaries. And some of them aren't with us anymore, which is so sad, right? Because they didn't make it over the counter, but they drove that innovation, which, we mustn't forget, right?
Yeah, and so we are seeing a lot of, because innovation is all about fixing problems, things that annoy us, things that don't work well, friction. What can we do? Remember contactless, and how long did that take? But now, could you go into the tube now without your smartphone, your life in your pocket? It's everything we need to do. And so open banking, yes, you can see all your statements of all your banks on one screen, but it's things like affordability checks, credit checks, lending. We're seeing a huge uplift on non-for-profit and SMEs really driving this forward. There's over 300 innovators now using open banking as the mainstay of their businesses, and all that brings in terms of employment and innovation. And then we're seeing the non-for-profit sector really benefit from access to data. And it goes beyond that. It's not just seeing data, it's using data. And there's some sort of hidden benefits here, which I think are really important to pull out. And having worked at NatWest Group for 7 years, through the launch of open banking and all of that, open banking enables organizations to create new propositions to fix problems for consumers, for SMEs, for customers. But also, those institutions themselves can use those APIs and that smarter data and that legacy upgrade to improve the efficiency and capabilities within the organization. So it can bring value within the organization as well as what you can then export and market to your customers. So it's a very broad spectrum of opportunity.
And so just a bridge going from here to the near-term developments where we're heading next.
Yeah.
There might be some people in the audience, I don't know how many are in the investment and savings sector, but I have sensed some fear for this sector with open finance, not far down the road, and looking on at the expense and the work that the banks had to put in to get open banking up and running.
Yeah.
And I do know there is this fear that what's coming next is a lot of money. And yes, there might be benefit, but it could be a long way down the line. So what do you say to help those people understand that it's not perhaps as bad as we might think?
No, it really isn't. And of course, I can't speak for specific companies, but the 8 years has been a big investment for the 9 banks that were under the order, were required to do this as a competition remedy. I think all of those 9 institutions, and I talk to all of them regularly, would now say that competition remedy is now an innovation opportunity. And they're using it as an innovation opportunity. And yes, they're keen to move on so that the whole industry pays, and not just the 9 banks. But that investment was dealing with legacy, dealing with data that wasn't stored in a smart way or in an appropriate way, as well as upgrading technical capability. And these are huge organizations. So expensive for them, yes, but in the context of what they do and the data they hold, it's been a good exercise. We don't need to repeat a lot of that for many organizations. And what OBL has done is created a light touch but controlled trust framework, directory services, monitoring. So we monitor and oversee this ecosystem to make sure the integrity is maintained, and standards, that all-important standards which will ensure interoperability and exchange as we move forward. So it need not be a huge capital investment. It will depend upon the nature of technical architecture, legacy, and quality of data within that organization, but that they don't necessarily have to be big givers of data. They could be big receivers of data. So do not think the cost is a nightmare, because it isn't. That the hard yards have been done, and now we can move forward and benefit from that. And a good example, Sam, just to bring it to life, commercial variable recurring payments. That scheme was stood up in about 3 months, over 30 organizations contributing to fund. It's up and running, and it's moving quickly, and it's moving quickly because the market is there before the scheme. CVRP are being processed every day. We're seeing lots of organizations using it, and we're now sort of catching up, really, as an industry in terms of a framework and pricing and all of those things that a scheme will hold. And isn't that fantastic?
It is fantastic, because we're moving away from always being regulatory driven and starting to move into opportunity and strategic strategy in terms of what we want for our businesses and for the customers that we service. Yeah. So it's a great segue that you've just used into this next section of our near-term developments, which with my smart data hat on, I think that's where we really throw in the gambit here. So what we're looking at, aren't we, is widening, broadening that whole open banking kind of remit, and thinking about data as open data, and to your benefit, because I don't know, I thought we'd move a bit quicker, actually. I thought with AI opening up that whole can of worms on data, I thought we're here, we're done, we've made it, data's finally got here. But no, there's still quite a lot of concern. I'd still say I find there's still a draw to being regulated, whereas, dare I say, our US counterparties don't feel that draw. They just seem to get on. So, I don't know. What do you think?
Big cultural differences, of course. UK has a culture. It is a regulated country, and of course that brings some slowness. But I think it is what it is, and let's embrace it. And I think we're doing a lot of things well. And if we think about what the Smart Data Council are doing, and what Scheme's doing, and what Innovate Finance are doing and what trade bodies doing. It's about convening the industry. And through open banking and looking at the next phases, we talk about industry-led. And I kind of think, what does that mean? It's actually industries-led, because I joined payments back in 2002, and it was the banks. And the reason schemes and infrastructure were separated because the banks owned everything, and that was evolution. And then we saw MasterCard spin off into a listed market and Visa, etc. And we started things change. Then it was banks, incumbents, and innovators, neo-banks, challenger banks. Now, look at our ecosystem. Look at our ecosystem. Look at PISPs. Look at those who initiate payments, for example. Big tech, Google Pay, Apple Pay. Big retail, Amazon Pay. Soon eBay, PayPal Pay. And we're seeing more and more. Klarna, we're seeing PISPs, we're seeing different identities. If we look at the 30 companies that funded CVRP, yes, banks, yes, challenger banks, innovators, small, what we call third-party players, or participants, TPPs. We love the P initial in everything we do. And now the industry is much, much broader. You know, merchant acquirers. So it's a broad industry. So how do you convene industries with different interests, different priorities, to come together to industry lead, fund, and work in an orderly environment and in a safe environment? And I mean safe from a compliance and regulatory point of view. That's what Smart Data Council do. That's what OBL do. That's what trade bodies do. And that's the skill, I think, of the UK that will really make this take off well. And that's why we've all got to participate in that and work out what role as an organisation you do or you don't want to play. But it's all comers welcome. What we are lacking is the long-term regulatory framework for mandation and schemes, and we need to start seeing those schemes build. CVRP is the first one. We will see others.
I completely agree, and it's so good that you brought up the 31 people, companies actually taking part in the CVRP industry-led. So when I put my smart data hat on, we need more of that, because it's the power of the cross-sector that is going to take us to the next level. So if you think about what smart data's next two phases are, which is to focus on energy and property. And if I can't believe we didn't get energy sorted when we had the crisis we had in 22. But should we just give that a miss? Maybe this time we'll get it sorted. So, you've got to have a few goes at this, right? But anyway, so energy is hugely important because it's such an underpin to businesses and people's lives. I mean, we talk about the growth of companies and businesses. Well, you can kill them off with an electricity bill, that they can't afford to pay. So, literally, we have to think about this. But the ability to use data effectively in that world, takes us to another level of operation. But it is not just energy. It'll be linked to finance. It'll be linked to their bank accounts. And then take property. There isn't anyone in this room that doesn't understand the complexity of the property, process from end to end. The number of different players. I mean, again, finance. You won't buy a house without your money. So, but what I'm getting at is that we have to start looking at data as being cross-sector and open to be used in all of those different areas. And I think that's the mode we're now in at the moment. This is the near-term phase. And your point about the interoperability and leveraging what we've put in place with open banking, I don't think we can underestimate that. So just explain again to the audience, like, if you're thinking about, using data in a collaborative way, maybe just explain a little bit more about that framework that exists. We've got it.
We have a framework, which is, a trust framework. It's a technical framework. It's a legal framework. A consent framework, and it exists, and it works well, right? And it's low cost. What we need to do is broaden that out across the industry, set the standards, and all adhere to those standards, and then we will see schemes form. Industry-led by those industry groups. CVRP is one. There are others forming now. run by the industry, but utilizing those elements that I've spoken about: trust frameworks, standards, monitoring, and there needs to be a pricing framework. To get a pricing framework and to mandate participation, we need this regulatory framework, which will be drawn up by Treasury and is happening now, and will be overseen by the Financial Conduct Authority, which will regulate this. These schemes, so if you're in a different industry or you're in an industry and you want to get this to work, get schemes together, and OPL can help with that, because CVLP was an example. Reuse what we have. Interoperability isn't just the technical framework, it's the people framework, it's the legal framework, it's the trust framework. So interoperate all of us. Let's get going. There's nothing to stop this. You don't have to seek permission to set up a scheme as an industry. Get the players that want to do it. Get the opportunity. Get the use cases. And please, fix home buying, fix transport booking, which does my head in, and all of those things that are a problem for consumers and businesses.
Brilliant. Well,
Okay.
yes, it's I couldn't agree more. We just need a bit more pace. So if anyone in the room can accelerate that in any way, shape or form, please do that.
Thanks, Sam.